solemnly swear that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Would you state your name for the record, please?
Donald Henry Forsee.
And what is your current occupation?
I am a patrolman with the Brookville Police Department.
How long have you been employed by the Brookville Police Department?
Approximately 3 years.
Okay. In the course of your employment with the Brookville Police Department, were you charged in, let's call it 2021, with conducting an investigation?
Yes.
Okay. And it was an investigation into a rape allegation, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And as part of that, did you prepare a report?
Yes.
Would you recognize that report if I showed it to you?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as plaintiffs 2. Is that your report?
Yes, it is.
Turning your attention, if you would, to the, I believe it's the second to last page. And the last page. It's the supplemental report regarding events that occurred on January 28th of 2022. Is that the report that you prepared?
Yes, it was.
And was anyone providing input to you, coaching you, or in other ways telling you what that report, that section of the report should say?
Yes, Lieutenant Geiser advised me what to write in that section of the supplement, yes.
So you typed it. You typed it and told you to type. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And did you feel that what you typed in that report was accurate?
The first couple paragraphs, yes. The last paragraph I did have some discrepancies with. I did.
What was that?
In reference to what it had said, I felt that it had implied that I wanted him to make an arrest on an individual, to which I advised I did not want that arrest to be made. And Lieutenant Geiser advised me that it was fine.
So he told you to state that you requested that he make the arrest. Did you ever request for him to make an arrest on that individual?
No, I did not.
And why did you put that? That wasn't true.
I entrusted Lieutenant Geiser's wisdom on typing narratives. I was in a bad position then. I've been on probation. There was a lot of things going on in my mind at the time.
In fact, he was your superior at the department, wasn't he?
That's correct, yes.
And he had the power to order you to do things.
He did, yes.
Okay. And other than that part of the paragraph, what else did you disagree with? Was that it?
There was a discrepancy in reference to a crash report that had happened in the summer months of this year, I believe it was, the summer months. I've been contacted by Lieutenant Geiser to go do a crash report over by the China House off 4th Street. He had advised me that Chief Mitchum had contacted him and advised me to go up there and do a crash report for a parking meter that had been damaged due to a crash. I went and investigated the crash. I called him back and advised him, hey man, there was no the car that was parked there didn't cause this accident. And then he advised me he called Chief Mitchum, and Chief Mitchum instructed him to tell me to still do a crash report for it.
So, let's talk real quick. Has your job duty changed, or your list of duties changed in any way since August 4th?
Yes, I was appointed to the evidence technician at the Brookville Police Department.
And so are you definitely in charge of the evidence room, in charge of storing and compiling the evidence? What's that exactly mean?
Basically, what you stated, it gather evidence, log evidence, submit evidence if it needs submitted, get evidence for court, stuff of that nature.
Who did you succeed at the evidence technician?
Sergeant Sam Williams at the time.
And then he resigned, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, I guess I didn't ask this, and I did, I apologize. That is true, an accurate copy of the report on that incident involving that re-investigation. Correct?
Yes, that's correct.
I move to admit plaintiffs to.
No objection.
I believe that's all I have, Mr. Williams.
May I promise? Thank you. Officer, how long have you been on the Brookville Police Department?
Approximately 3 years.
And before that, did you have any prior law enforcement experience of any kind?
Yes, I was employed by the Franklin County Sheriff's Office for approximately 2.5 years.
And during that time, were you a law enforcement officer or a jail officer or both?
I was both.
Okay. Prior to what you just testified to in regards to this particular report, have you ever been the arresting officer in any cases prior to this one?
Yes.
How many times would you say you've been the arresting officer as a general estimate prior to the facts of this case?
I can't honestly answer that question. I can't give you an honest answer.
Were they enough to give you experience on how the criminal justice system works
Yes.
in general?
Yes.
And you realize, of course, that when an officer prepares a case report or a supplemental case report, it is under penalties of perjury?
Yes.
Did you realize that when you prepared both the initial and the supplemental report in this case that you just testified to?
Not at the time, no, because my lieutenant was the one advising me on this, and I assumed under his tutelage that he would not lead me down that path, no.
My question is, did you know when you authored this report that it had to be truthful?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
And if you were not truthful, it would be considered perjury or a serious,
I'm aware, yes.
because of your prior experience as an officer, correct, if nothing else?
Correct, yes.
So it would be inappropriate to categorize you as a rookie based upon your prior testified to police experience, correct?
I'm not sure I understand your question here, sir.
You're not able to give me an estimate, but the fact is, for a number of years, you have been a police officer prior to this particular date of this report.
Yes.
And you knew how to author a case report and a supplemental report at the time you made this one.
That's correct, yes.
So my question to you is, did you think you were making a false statement in this report?
I definitely felt that the last paragraph, there's definitely some discrepancies in that, yes.
Now, a discrepancy is not the same thing as lying or committing perjury.
If you're asking if I think it was wrong, then yes, it was wrong, yes.
But you did not necessarily think it was false for the requirement of reporting always to be honest?
Do I think it was false? Yes, I do. Because I did not want Trevin Palmer to be arrested.
Why would you, as a somewhat experienced officer, knowingly put and author a false statement in a supplemental report?
Because I was under the guidance of my lieutenant, who advised me that what I was doing was fine.
Did he tell you to lie?
No, but when I explained to him my discrepancy, I said, hey, this kind of sounds like I want to arrest Trevin Palmer. That is not what I want. He said, it's fine. He said, don't worry about it.
You could have chosen a different approach, correct?
Correct, yes.
You're not testifying here that Officer Geiser was threatening you with punishment or a job loss if you wouldn't have changed this report.
Okay. I am going to pander to you, and I'm going to explain to you some things that you don't know. Okay? I'm going to explain this to you. My tenure at the Brookville Police Department has been a nightmare. Okay? It has been a rough one. Lieutenant Geiser can attest to that. Okay? He can tell you how many times I came to him in fear of my job of being fired because I was placed on probation for numerous years. Okay? Although there were offenses that I did commit, but I was placed on probation. Okay? Probation in my eyes was I can be fired at any given moment. Okay? Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
I'm not the witness.
Okay.
You want to give a speech, that's okay.
Well, I'm just trying to explain to you. Okay? Tread outside that line and you could be fired. That was my mental state.
So what you're saying is you felt that you had no right to assert your own professionalism with respect to an authorship of this report.
I felt powerless, yes.
Now, this is a small department that you work for. How many officers are there?
I believe there's 7 road officers and then 2 administrative officers, the chief and the assistant chief.
How often would you come in contact with, at the time, the chief or the assistant chief?
Very rarely. Typically, the assistant chief I really didn't come in contact with. Typically, when I came in contact with the chief, it was for a disciplinary action.
If officers would say that there was an open door policy for management to where you could come and discuss anything to do with your responsibilities whenever you would want to, would that be a lie?
It was more an open door policy. I don't believe that for a second. I really don't.
Well, you want to work in an environment where you had no ability to exercise professionalism from your perspective.
Because it wasn't like that when I got hired on.
How did it change?
It changed a lot. There was a lot of changes. I had been verbalized some concerns when I first got on there, and then punishment started to be dealt. Stuff started to happen, and I began to receive copious amounts of probation, which I felt was a way to keep a thumb on top of me while I worked at the Brookville Police Department. Because I did. I verbalized a lot of the stuff that, at the beginning. And then as the probation started to stack up, I decided to keep my mouth shut and just go to status quo.
To such an extent that you would not change what you perceived as not being a truthful statement in one of your case reports.
That's correct.
So, in terms of Officer Geiser, did he physically threaten you to make this statement that you disagreed with, that you referred to?
No, he did not. I will not sit here and say Officer Geiser ordered me, coerced me to do it. I took his words under advisement and used his judgment in keeping it as it was.
Why wouldn't you use your own judgment on what you should put in a case report?
Because I've come to Lieutenant Geiser before on previous cases in reference to how to write things. Lieutenant Geiser has better verbiage than I do. And, you know, he was my FTO back at the Sheriff's Department. He trained me. And, you know, he was my FTO at the Brookville Police Department. So I entrusted his guidance and I entrusted his wisdom. And when the lieutenant tells you it's fine, then it's fine.
And you voluntarily went to him to show him the draft of this report.
Yes.
Because you, as you testified, believed in his credibility, his professionalism, and his advice would be valuable to you. Is that correct?
Yes, my knowledge of writing in DNA analysis, I had no knowledge, so I requested his assistance. Yes.
In fact, the way the case was handled, weren't you very pleased with everything that you did in this case?
I mean, I was, yeah. I felt like I did a pretty decent job with what I had, yeah.
So, I mean, Officer Geiser didn't stop your success in this, did he?
I mean, with the warrantless arrest, yeah, I got stonewalled.
Did Officer Geiser assist you in how to get DNA evidence?
No.
What other assistance did he give you beyond what you've already testified to in this case?
I just explained the case as I was going through it and telling him what I was doing. That's what. He was an advisor.
You did not go to another officer or supervisor with respect to your concerns on the verbiage of this supplemental report. Is that correct?
No, I did not.
And it's your testimony that it would have been against your job interest to do that.
Yes.
Did Officer Geiser indicate to you that your job would be in jeopardy if you didn't use the exact words that he thought would be appropriate in
No, he
this
did not.
report?
No, he did not.
Were you asked by officers of the department whether or not you wanted to join them in making the arrest of Tevin Kalheimer?
I was, yes. Lieutenant Geiser, yes.
And who made that request, asking you to join with them?
Lieutenant Geiser.
And what was your response to Lieutenant Geiser?
No.
And why did you say no?
Because I didn't want to get involved in it.
And why did you not want to get involved in it? After all, it was your own case, right?
Because it's not, with the case, it was, you guys do what you want, I'm out. Like, I'm not getting involved in any kind of apprehension of this guy.
At this time, you had the DNA results, correct?
Correct, yes.
Which was a match and greatly bolstered the probable cause for your rape investigation, correct?
Yes, I'm not denying that I believe that we didn't have probable cause. I'm not denying that fact.
That you did a good job in creating the probable cause, correct, in your mind?
Yeah, I believe I did, yeah.
Then why would you not want to participate in his arrest?
Because it's not in my nature, without the consulting the prosecutor, it's not in my nature.
So you just don't like to do warrantless arrests?
That's correct, yes.
But certainly you would recognize that you've been taught and you do understand that many officers will engage in warrantless arrests. Is that correct?
I mean, yeah.
So when you were asked to join in on making the warrantless arrest while the search warrant for the drug recovery was being done, Did you try to stop them from doing that?
I did not, no.
You stated you didn't want to join in with them,
Right.
but you did not take any actions to stop
I did not, no.
them. There were no concerns on your part, were there, that this was inappropriate or wrong or bad?
My only concern was that I was being used as a kind of like an anchor, you know.
In another investigation.
But like, yeah, because of course he wanted us to do this. So that was not my intention. And that's why I didn't go, because it wasn't my intention.
But you did not take any affirmative steps to try to stop them from doing it.
No.
Now, obviously you realize that my client's job is on the line here. You have worked with my client for multiple years now, is that
The rest
correct?
of my tenure as a law enforcement officer, yes.
And what is your opinion of him as a police officer professional?
It has never been a doubt in my mind that Brian Geiser wants to get bad guys off the street. It has never been a doubt in my mind.
Can you repeat what you just said?
I said it's never been a doubt in my mind that Ryan Geiser wants to get bad guys off the street. It's never been a doubt in my mind. His method is different from my method. I'm more of a, go by the book. Geiser plays a little more fast and loose than I do. So, but yeah. Do I think Geiser's a good officer? Absolutely. I do think Geiser, he's intelligent, he writes good, he speaks well. I'm not denying that Geiser is, he's not a bad cop. He's a good cop. He's got a lot of good cases in his career. Got a lot of drugs off the street. He's done a lot of good. But in this instance, I just felt like, I was wronged or I was used to get somewhere. And that was not my intention.
The only aspect of this case that you were aware of was the rape investigation, correct?
Yes, I was not, I was informed that he was getting a warrant for the residence. And then that's when I was requested to come in and write the supplement for the report.
But you were not involved in the actual drug investigation
No, I was
case at all?
No, I was not.
And the assertion here on the last page of the exhibit that you just testified to is that the last sentence of the first full paragraph is what you feel uncomfortable about, correct?
Yes.
I'm going to read it out loud here. I informed Lieutenant Geiser of the status of my investigation. Is that correct so far?
Yes.
And requested assistance in the apprehension of Trevor Collin. Is that correct?
No, that is not correct.
If you were going to make it correct, what would you have said?
I would have just left it at the appointed legal counsel. I wouldn't even have put the last paragraph in. And I would have let the prosecutor make the interpretation of what he wanted to do.
In this particular situation, the sentence that you're concerned with, that doesn't deal with the evidence of the case, does it?
No, it does not.
It doesn't deal with the probable cause of the case, does it?
No, it does not.
It only deals with whether or not there was requested assistance in the apprehension of Trevor Bond, correct?
Correct.
But didn't she just testify that they asked you to go along with them?
Yeah, that's correct, yes.
So that part's not false.
That part is false, yes.
Earlier in your testimony, you said that Lieutenant Geiser had asked you to accompany them to make the warrantless arrest.
Yes,
And you said, yes, that happened, and you said no.
that's correct, yes.
So what is the falsehood in this report?
That is trickery, what I like to consider.
Trickery.
Yes.
How is it trickery?
Because it was probably a lapse in judgment on my end, because I wanted to be done with this.
No further questions?
All right, so real quick. Where was Lieutenant Geiser while you were drafting that last paragraph?
He was next to me.
Next to you, telling you what to say.
Yes,
And it says that you requested him to make the arrest of the suspect, correct?
yes,
Which is false.
yes.
Were you on duty the day that, and at the time that the suspect was arrested?
No, I was not.
So you were called in special to come write this report?
Yes,
You did not participate in the arrest, correct?
correct, yes.
To your knowledge, did Lieutenant Geiser prepare a report on the rape arrest?
On this?
On the rape case, yes.
No, he did not.
When you spoke with Lieutenant Geiser about this, did he indicate whether Chief Mitchell was there or not?
On the warrant, on the execution of the
The
warrant,
execution warrant and contemporaneous warrant?
not that I recall. I can't recall that.
Do you have knowledge of who was on the scene?
I believe it was Sergeant Williams, Ryan Geiser, and I think Assistant Chief Strait at the time. I believe he was there.
Okay. Do you know if Chief Mitchell was on duty or not?
I can't recall.
Okay. Did you ever discuss this case or the DNA evidence with Chief Mitchell?
No, not to the extent that I spoke with Geiser on it.
Okay.
I'm assuming he was aware that we had the DNA evidence at the time, yes. I assume he was aware that we had the DNA evidence at the time.
Did Chief Mitchell ever order you to arrest the suspect?
No, he did not.
Did he ever indicate to you that he would like for you to arrest the suspect?
No, he did not.
Did he ever indicate to you that he had any knowledge of the DNA evidence?
No, he did not.
Did you discuss this case, this rape investigation, with Chief Mitchell at all?
Not to my recollection.
Okay.
I mean, there's more Lieutenant Geiser and the guys who were at work.
Did Lieutenant Geiser or Assistant Chief Strait or anybody who was your superior express frustration with the prosecutor's progress on this case?
Really, there wasn't any progress being made. I mean, we were really just waiting for DNA evidence. That was more the frustration. Because, I mean, we'd sent it out, and it had been, felt like forever since we got it. So,
In fact, it was processed and the report sent out in middle of December. And you guys didn't get it off the server until the end of January, isn't that right?
I wasn't the evidence tech at the time. I didn't have access to those records.
When did you get the DNA evidence?
The day that I came in to write the supplement.
So, real quick. So when you said 947, you received the certificate of analysis from the State Police Division and referenced items sent out to the laboratory for forensic analysis. That would be the DNA results, right?
Yes.
Okay. Did you receive those first, or did someone else receive them?
I did not receive them first. It would have been somebody else.
Okay. And you wrote this report, when was that? January 30th?
That's correct, yes.
But when was the warrantless arrest? Do you know?
I don't recall the exact day the arrest was made. No.
And when did, and you said, refresh my recollection, you said, when did you receive the report was when, the DNA report was when you received?
The day I came in to write the supplement.
So when you said you received it on the 28th, that would be inaccurate as well.
Yes.
And those would be Lieutenant Geiser's words to you to put in there that you received it, correct?
Typically, I don't believe that was Ryan, I believe that was me. Usually, whatever the date on the DNA analysis is, that's what I put in the report.
The day it was received or the day it was generated?
Or the day it was generated. It's usually what I do. I put it in there.
Okay. But he was sitting next to you when you did that?
Yes.
And he didn't say, no way, it was me?
No, he didn't say anything.
And when he was telling you what to write on the last paragraph, did he express that his desire that you should say these things?
It was more when we were discussing the discrepancy issue, because we had discussed it, and he advised it was a way to get Chris to do something about the case.
So, filing that report, putting those words of Lieutenant Geiser's in the report, was designed to get Chris to do something about the rape case. And by Chris, you mean Chris Hurricane, the prosecutor.
Yes.
So I guess he was frustrated with the progress of the investigation, wasn't he?
That's his mind. I couldn't explain it. I'm not going
Nothing else?
to get inside his mind.
No, that's fine, nothing else.
May I? Thank you. Officer, there wasn't a requirement at the time that you authored this particular case report and supplement that other officers draft your reports in your department.
I'm sorry?
Was it a requirement that someone else draft your reports at the time of this report? Was that a policy within the department?
You mean have them write it for me?
Yes.
No, it's not a policy.
It was the expectation of every individual investigating officer to author, create, approve, and sign their own reports, correct?
Correct, yes.
In this case, the first contact with respect to the content of this report is when you reached out to Officer Geiser, right?
Yes.
It was not a situation of where my client went to you inquiring, let me see your report, I want to change it.
No, he didn't inquire. He never verbiaged that, no.
In this situation, when you went to a supervisor who had more experience and knowledge, you would expect the supervisor to review every word, every line, every paragraph. Isn't that why you're showing it to him in the first place?
Yes, they are required to review our reports prior to going over to the prosecutor's office.
And it would not be unusual in that process for a supervisor to make comments about the content of those reports when you are asking for them to review it, correct?
I'm not sure I understand the question here, sir.
When you reached out to Officer Geiser and showed him your report,
Correct.
did you anticipate that he would read it and make comments about the verbiage
It wasn't about the report, it was about the supplement.
or the supplement?
Yeah, it was over the supplement. Because I explained to him, I don't know how to write this. Can you help me write this? How do you put that in there? And he's like, yeah, I'll help you write it.
So actually, you requested that he write it.
No,
Is that your testimony?
no, that's not my testimony.
Okay, what did you
Putting
just...
words in my mouth.
All right. Why did you go to Officer Geiser at all?
Because I wanted his tutelage on how to properly construct a DNA analysis supplement.
So the content of this supplemental was important to you, and you wanted experienced advice on the content
Yes, I wanted it done correctly, yes.
in terms of the sentences and the paragraphs.
The proper verbiage, yes.
That'd be good.
Nothing else. Releasing from this subpoena.
Yes, we would have no further.
Thanks, Officer Forsee.
Thank you.
Thank you, officer.
At this point in time, I request to take a brief recess so that the regular town council can convene to conduct some routine business and continue ours, because our session was supposed to start at 8 o'clock. So I'd entertain a motion at this time to continue the hearing until immediately after the conclusion of the very brief upcoming town council meeting that's supposed to occur at 8 o'clock tonight.
I'll move.
Aaron moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Brooke second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. This will reconvene immediately after the conclusion. I would like to call Chuck Campbell up to sit in for Brookville Town Council, excuse Mr. Leffingwell, and then we will immediately begin the Town Council hearing. In session. I believe Attorney Saunders still has the floor.
Yes. Yeah, in consultation with opposing counsel, he intended to enter into evidence, I believe, Brookville ordinance number 2022-15 and 2022-21, along with a series of minutes from the August 4th meeting on. Is that correct?
Yes.
And any safety board resolutions or anything that has been done by the safety board since it was reconstituted. And
That's correct.
yeah, I stipulated that those can be admitted, they want to admit them. I think there's an issue with they just received those today and there's no copies available, is that correct?
I'm not sure if these, I haven't had a chance to look at them.
Okay.
I was gonna say, I sent them today.
You sent them today, okay. So just whenever you get them, we can call those, what do you want to call them? Respondents A,
It would be B.
B, in however many parts. So we agree with that.
I agree with what you said.
Okay, then at this time, I will call Lieutenant Ryan Geiser.
Do you solemnly swear that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Would you state your name for the record, please?
Lieutenant Ryan James Geiser.
And you, even though you're administratively, you're a lieutenant in the Brookville Police Department, correct?
Correct.
And how long have you been a lieutenant?
I can't recall the exact date of my promotion.
Was it 2021?
I believe so, yes.
And the promotion was approved by the town council, correct?
I believe so.
Okay. So many of the people who were on safety board were on the town council at that point, correct?
I believe so. I'm not sure of the town council who all was present on the board when they
Okay.
made that decision.
But it would be safe to say that by giving you promotion, at that time, they had faith in your ability to discharge your duties and do so well, promoting you to lieutenant, correct?
I would think so, yes.
Okay. As a lieutenant in the Brookville Police Department, how many other members of that department outrank you?
There would be two.
The chief and the assistant chief?
That is correct.
Okay. And
kind of for the record, are there people who are assigned to be detectives or to be patrolmen, or how's that structured? If there's an investigation, how does that proceed?
The structure of the police department, I was tasked to be the detective, which I believe may have been attached to my job description with the promotion to lieutenant. Everybody else in the department, the only other per se investigative task for another officer in the department would be a canine officer. But other than that, they would be considered patrolmen.
Okay. So, in your current task, your current rank of lieutenant, and your assigned, I guess, title of detective or duties of detective, is it safe to say that in conducting investigations, your affirmations and reports are relied upon in order to get things like search warrants?
Yes,
Okay. And in police reports and criminal charging information, those affirmations and reports would be something that a prosecutor would rely on in prosecuting cases that you've investigated, correct?
yes,
Okay, let me ask you this too. Are you the only detective?
for the Brookville Police
Yeah.
Department? Yes,
Okay. So would you be taking over investigating major crimes, for example, rape or something along those lines?
that would be in the purview of the job, yes.
Okay.
Not necessarily also just taking them over, but also assisting officers who are conducting those investigations.
So the patrolman would continue to start the investigation, and you would give them guidance as they went through the investigation. Is that correct?
If they ask for assistance.
Okay. Let's go back to the warrantless arrest of a rape suspect that's been brought up. Do you recall that case?
Are you referring to Trevin Tallheimer?
That's correct.
Yes.
So you do recall that case?
Yes.
Okay. And you recall circumstances under which the arrest occurred?
The circumstances being he was arrested at the execution of a search warrant?
A search warrant for drugs, correct?
That is correct.
You had an arrest warrant for rape, correct?
That is correct.
And you were the one who effected that arrest, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So, did you generate a report on your role in that arrest?
The report would be as part of my initial case being sent over to the prosecutor, outlining the events which took place with my search warrant. There was made mention in my case report that he was arrested for that charge and to refer to the investigative report that was created by Officer Forsee for further and detailed information in that case.
Was Officer Forsee accurate in his depiction of your role in his report?
Could I see a copy of his report to see definitively what he has my role in?
He didn't have it. He said, he testified that you were sitting next to him telling him what to write. Is that accurate?
I wouldn't say I was telling him what to write. I was providing guidance on things that should be included for the DNA purposes.
What about on the issue of the arrest? Did you guide him on drafting that language?
No, I did not.
So why did he say he asked for your assistance when he did not?
I can't speak for Officer Forsee, but I did not tell him to write that in his report.
Okay. Did you call him in to write that follow-up report, that supplemental report?
Yes, I did.
Okay, why couldn't it wait?
I was under orders of the chief to have him come in and complete all information so we could submit all of our paperwork to the prosecutor's office in a timely manner.
Did the chief order you to arrest Mr. Thalheimer?
I wouldn't say that he per se ordered me to arrest Mr. Tallheimer.
Didn't you testify in court that you were ordered to do so?
I don't believe I was given the opportunity to elaborate on the circumstances which arise between myself and the prosecutor or the defense attorneys due to lack of preparation for an investigation. I was under the impression we were there for a search warrant.
Okay. So, your explanation, if testimony was contradictory, you heard what Mr. Gilligan said earlier about your contradictory testimony, you were in the room for that, correct?
Yes,
Your explanation for that is you didn't get properly prepared. Is that right?
yes, I do believe in that testimony. I also stated that it was a mix of both Officer Forsee and Chief Mitchum, not contradictory.
See, you, who was on site at the execution of the search warrant?
Myself, Sergeant Samuel Williams, and Chief of Police Terry Mitchum.
Was Mike Strait there?
No, he was not.
And did you file a report that indicated Chief Mitchum was located at the site of the arrest?
I do not recall if I have him in my report or not.
Be pretty important, wouldn't it? Don't you think?
I don't think it would be important for an officer assisting in the execution of the search warrant. No, I don't think that's a pertinent piece of information.
What's the purpose of obtaining a warrant for effecting a major felony arrest? What does it accomplish?
It would have the backing of the courts after review of a case.
It would provide you with immunity from lawsuit, wouldn't it?
I don't know if that does protect from immunity or not.
Okay. Why did you choose to arrest him at that time without a warrant or as much as consulting with the prosecutor?
We had probable cause.
You've been an officer for how long?
Since 2014,
Since 2014, how many sex crime arrests have you made without a warrant?
I can think of at least one off the top of my head.
What was that for?
Child molesting?
You made it without a warrant?
Yes.
Based on what?
Probable cause.
What was the problem cause?
I can't dive into the specifics of a case that was 4, 5, 6 years old.
Was it prosecuted?
I believe so.
You know what the outcome was?
I can't recall.
Did you generate a police report regarding your interaction with Mr. Hicks?
Not per se a police report. However, all of the pertinent information that he had provided to me was in my search warrant affidavit when presented to the courts.
Okay. But you didn't take a report regarding the alleged burglary?
All of the information pertinent to that burglary complaint was put in my search warrant affidavit.
But you were searching for burglary evidence or evidence of the fruits of burglary, were you?
No, I was not.
Okay. So why didn't you generate a report saying, hey, there's this guy, Kevin Hicks, told me somebody stole stuff from him, and he wants to pursue the matter?
Because Mr. Hicks failed to provide me with a list of things that were taken. He explained to me that there was no forced entry that he could find on his residence. When asked to create a list of things that were stolen that he had noticed to be stolen when looking through his residence, he failed to do so. I attempted on multiple occasions to follow up with Mr. Hicks and attempt to get that list, and I've yet to this day received that information.
Why were you late to the hearing?
I'm sorry?
Why were you late to the hearing on July 19th in the suppression hearing?
I did not know I had a hearing that day.
Did you receive a subpoena from the prosecutor's office?
I did.
You did?
Back in May.
Okay, so you didn't know you had to be there.
I did not know I needed to be there, that 2 months had transpired with lots of information and cases going on. It had slipped my mind. That was the first time in my entire career being a law enforcement officer here in Franklin County that I was late to any type of hearing.
Did you receive a subpoena from Judge Miller?
I believe so.
When was that?
I can't recall the date that I received that.
Let me see if I can refresh your recollection. What's the date on Judge's subpoena to you?
July 19th, 2022.
And what's the date he sent and dated to be served?
July 12th, 2022.
Okay, so you got it a week beforehand, right?
I don't remember receiving this. The last thing that I remember seeing from the defense attorneys was a dismissal due to a continuance that was filed, because I believe the case had been continued on multiple occasions.
What's the fax number for the Brookville Police Department?
I'm not sure.
If I said 765-547-1099, would that be correct?
I'm not sure if that's what the police department's fax number is.
Can you function fully in your capacity as a detective lieutenant at the Brookville Police Department, given the restrictions that Mr. Hewitt has put in place on the use of your evidence and testimony?
I believe his decision not to utilize any information that I submit to his office to effectively charge or file charges against an individual is not a dereliction of my duty, but that would be him.
That's not what I asked. What I asked was, can you function fully in your role as detective lieutenant, knowing that the prosecutor will not file charges that rely on your affirmations or reports?
Yes, I did.
Okay. What does this letter prohibit you from doing?
Which letter are you speaking of?
The one that Chris sent, that's in evidence that you've seen because it was attached to your disciplinary complaint.
Okay. Could I refer to a copy as to what specifically you're referring to? Please.
What I'm asking is, with those restrictions, what duties would you be restricted from performing?
Well, with due to his letter that he provided you guys, it would be on his end to where he would not file any charges for me being a main witness or arresting individuals.
So you could investigate crimes, right?
I believe so. I can provide assistance in officers investigating crimes if I'm not going to be the main witness of a case.
As a lieutenant detective, would it be your job to lead those investigations?
Not necessarily.
Do you have a job description for your position as a detective lieutenant?
I believe so.
Yeah, with you?
I do not.
What was the job description in the best of your recollection?
I don't know what all was put in the job description. Ordinances, I believe, investigating crimes as a supervisor, reviewing reports to send over for accuracy.
So you have a job, but you don't know what your job duties are, is that what you're saying?
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I don't know exactly verbatim, word for word, what is put on my job duty description at the police department.
Do you understand how your answers in the suppression can cause someone to doubt your credibility?
No, I don't.
So when you say that Forsee wanted you to effect the arrest, that is not accurate, is that correct?
That is accurate.
He testified that he did not want you to effect the arrest. Do you
No.
recall that?
I do recall that.
Is he lying?
Yes, he is.
Okay. Then why, when you called him, did he not participate? If he wanted thought arrested, why didn't he participate?
Sure. He had advised that he had plans with his wife later that night. Due to him working third shift, he sleeps throughout the day and is up all night. So by the time we were planning to execute the search warrant, he would be in bed and he did not want to miss time with his wife due to their work schedules being on the same schedule.
Okay. If he asked you to, then why did Terry Mitchell need to order you to?
He didn't need to order me.
Then why did he? Was he bored?
He thought there was probable cause in our investigation as well.
Okay, Forsee asked you to. Mitchell ordered you to. Why was Mitchell's order necessary? If Forsee said, hey, I got probable cause in this guy, go test him, why did you talk to the chief about it?
Because he's the chief of police. He manages the entire police department and is kept abreast of every investigation that's being conducted.
And so instead of saying, hey, chief, Forsee wants to arrest this guy, the chief said, well, then I'm ordering you to do it. Is that what you said happened?
That's not how that transpired.
Let's see. I believe that doesn't match your testimony. Your testimony on page 41 was, is there anything you talked to about proceeding like that? The chief, what did the chief tell you? To arrest him on those charges. Chief Mitchell ordered you to arrest him. Yes.
Because there was probable cause.
You just said he didn't order you to. Are you lying then? Are you lying now? Do you know what lie you're telling?
I'm not saying any lies. I think you're mismatching the words.
He can't have ordered you to do it and not ordered you to do it. You see the problem here?
I see the problem where my words are being mismatched. He felt that there was probable cause. When he feels that there's probable cause, he said there was probable cause. I said there was probable cause. Officer Forsee said there was probable cause. I take that as there's probable cause to make the arrest.
So, one of the problems that I'm having is, and I think one of the problems that pretty much everybody's having with your conduct in this case, and you can tell me if I'm wrong,
Okay.
is that you're saying things, and I don't know how you're saying them, but you appear to be saying them without thinking. That, did he order you? Yes. Well, no, that's not what I meant. Well, then I said, did he order you? No, he didn't order me. Well, that's, you're twisting my words. See, the problem is, when you say things under oath, there, here, your words are used to determine whether you're credible or not. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay. And you understand that when you're saying two things that cannot be existing in the same universe, that one of them is untrue. You understand, right?
Yes.
So, one is true and one is a lie. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay. And you understand how your credibility as an officer in making arrests, because you don't have body cams, right?
That is correct.
Okay. So when you pull somebody over who's driving left to center, even if they're driving on the sidewalk, your word is the only thing that the court has to go off of. You understand, right?
Yes.
And if you have a tendency to say things that aren't true, that hurts your credibility, correct?
But I'm not saying things that are untrue, and I don't have a tendency of saying things that are not true. But yes, if that were the case, that would hurt credibility.
So if the board would find that your inconsistent statements represent a problem with accurately portraying the truth, that would be a fair assessment of what's going on here today. Wouldn't you agree?
No, I don't.
Then explain to me how you can state two diametrically opposed things and not be lying.
They're not diametrically opposed. He did not come to me and say, I order you to arrest Trevin Toss.
How did you?
He said that there was probable cause. I take that as there's probable cause to make the arrest. And he affirmed, yes, go ahead and make the arrest.
Why did you say that?
I also wasn't given the opportunity to explain myself on these responses.
So, at line 8, you acknowledge that he ordered you to arrest. And on line 17, or line 16, you're asked, how did you feel about this? You respond a little uneasy, but at the same time, I guess he had made those orders for me to arrest it. And based off the information received on the DNA evidence, that's why you twice said he ordered you. You were given the opportunity to explain yourself then. You said he ordered you again. And now you say he didn't.
But I believe I also said in that testimony that anything that the chief sends down is construed as an order.
Okay. So a superior, when they send a word down, it's considered an order in your department, right?
Yes.
So, if Forsee is to be believed, then your statement to him to write the report that way should be considered an order, correct?
I didn't tell him to write it
That's
that way.
not what I asked. I asked if his testimony is believed, then what you told him was an order. Based upon your department's policy, the superior statements and instructions are orders.
There is no policy that states that.
Then why did you construe the chief's words as an order?
Because I thought it was an order. I feel anything that the chief of police, the head of our department, comes down to say something would be construed as an order.
Would it be true to say that anyone below you should construe your statements the same way?
I believe if I'm going to order somebody to do something, I'm going to say that I order someone to do something.
But the chief doesn't do that.
No.
Okay. Would it be unreasonable for an officer to believe that a superior telling him or instructing him to do something constitutes an order?
In this particular circumstance, no.
Generally.
If I come to a subordinate and tell them to do something that is within the parameters of their job and my job, then yes.
Okay. So you call Forsee in on his day off to draft supplemental report regarding events he did not witness. Is that true?
I told him to draft up all completing documents for that investigation to send over to the prosecutor's office. And I believe in his supplement report, he has nothing in there about the details or instance of my search warrant.
So do you want to, so the rape arrest is just out there in the ether. It just kind of exists. There's no report on it, no nothing except it may be related to a misdemeanor marijuana arrest. Is that what you're saying?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
So the rape arrest just sits out there as part of an investigation into a misdemeanor.
The rape arrest was attached to probable cause of newly discovered and received evidence pertinent to that investigation. We were there for a completely separate matter, which was a drug investigation.
Okay, then why did you arrest him for rape if you were there for drugs?
Because we had just received newfound evidence which established probable cause for the arrest of rape.
Detective Lieutenant, were you in charge of the evidence room?
At one point in time, yes, I was.
Call it December, January 21 and 22. Were you in charge of the evidence room then?
roughly for a month. I believe it may have been the latter part of December. I don't recall what the specific dates of my tenure in the evidence room was.
Did you pull the DNA report off of the state police website?
That report was actually provided to me by the state laboratory.
Right. So did they mail it to you, or how did they do it?
They sent that to me in an email along with a request to change the username and login information to get into our department portal.
Didn't it take 6 weeks to get that DNA report back?
I don't know when it was. I know that that report was in the portal the day that I gained access into that portal.
How long did you not have access to that portal?
I can't recall.
Okay. You waited 2 days after smelling marijuana to execute a search warrant, is that correct?
That is correct.
And didn't the rape suspect try to contact the Brookville Police Department at least twice on the intervening day?
I believe so. I'm not sure. I wasn't there.
And why did you wait 2 days to serve the warrant?
We had a lack of personnel working.
Why did you wait to get the warrant until the next day instead of staying over a couple of hours and getting a warrant from a judge?
Because I had personal obligations that I needed to attend to outside of my workday.
Was there any statement made by you that you were effecting his arrest to get Chris to do something about this case?
I believe Officer Forsee testified to that, which is a complete lie.
Were you frustrated with the pace at which the prosecutor was pursuing that case?
No.
Did you think Mr. Thalhammer was a flight risk?
No.
Then why didn't you go get a warrant from the prosecutor?
Because I'm not required to.
Isn't it good practice?
I mean, it depends on who you're talking to, which we may call good practice, but at the end of the day, it's not required for me to get an arrest warrant if I have established probable cause for an arrest.
If you don't have the prosecutor on board, couldn't it blow up in your face? And not be charged and get somebody sued, you sued? Couldn't all that happen?
If the prosecutor's not on board, I did not know he was not on board. The last conversation I had with the prosecutor is he said, let's wait and see what this evidence brings back. As in DNA. Never at one point in time did he say he wasn't on board, and actually on multiple occasions, the prosecutor said that he was going to be sending that case to a grand jury.
So wouldn't that imply that he wanted to take action before you made an arrest, get a warrant from a grand jury, get a charging information, build indictment, something together before the arrest happened?
He said that after the arrest was made.
Why would he have said that after the arrest was made? How did that come up in conversation?
When going over my case for my search warrant, the charges that were brought about by the search warrant, he had informed me that he was not going to be filing right off the bat the rape charges, that he was going to be presenting it to a grand jury.
So when did you talk to him about the case before that? Before the arrest?
I can't recollect the exact time that I talked to him.
When did he tell you to wait on the DNA evidence?
I believe it was after whatever time Officer Forsee had sent items up to the Indiana State Police Laboratory for DNA confirmatory testing.
So it is your testimony that Terry Mitchell was on site at the time the search warrant was served?
Yes.
That's all I have.
Thank you. In terms of making a warrantless arrest for the rape charge, when the DNA evidence came back with a match, would it be fair to say that not only did you have probable cause, but with the gold standard evidence of DNA connection, you had proof beyond reasonable doubt to make the warrantless arrest, correct?
I'd object to that. That calls for a legal conclusion that's not there.
You were talking about the service of the warrant and the basis for the service of the warrant. I think I have the right to justify why he made a warrantless arrest. You were asking questions about the warrantless arrest.
You can ask about probable cause, but proof beyond reasonable doubt's a legal conclusion, not before this board.
I'll withdraw the question and restate it. Did you have any doubts whatsoever in your own mind as a professional police officer that you had solid evidence based upon the DNA to justify the warrantless arrest for rape?
I had no doubts.
In the detective world, is not the greatest evidence possible DNA evidence if it's a connection?
Yes.
No further questions?
Where was that DNA found?
I didn't hear that.
Oh, sorry. Where was that DNA found?
Which part of the DNA? There were multiple items of DNA sent.
Which item did it return from?
I don't have the actual specific DNA result that came back from the state police lab.
Okay. What items were sent?
I recall there was a beer bottle that was sent up, as well as multiple articles of clothing and swabs.
Do you remember what the articles of clothing were?
I don't recall. I believe underwear.
Do you remember who they belonged to?
I don't, without having that case report in front of me.
So if they belong to to the suspect, you would expect his DNA to be on his own stuff, wouldn't you?
Sure.
Okay. And did the prosecutor at some point tell you that this was like a case of mourning after regret at some point?
Yes, he did when
Okay.
he was first brought to the attention of the case.
Okay. Did that lead you to believe he wasn't prosecuted?
No, after our conversation, I did not take that away from our conversation at the end.
So after you said it was mourning after regret,
And
what did you say after that to change your mind and you didn't think this was a nonsense case?
I will proceeding to make my argument as to why I believe that this wasn't just a remorse or regret case, including the specifics of that investigation on how our victim was acting and how our victim was coming forward with the information, that I did not believe, in fact, that this was a remorse, and that's when he said, well, let's see what the DNA evidence comes back as. But I believe after our lengthy conversation, he moved away from the remorse ideology.
But initially you ran it past him, right?
Initially, yes.
And you were out trying to recruit somebody to run against the rape suspect for town board, is that correct?
I asked what I thought was a friend to run for an open vacant seat on the town board of Brookville, yes.
That's all I got.
When you were physically present inside the residence serving the search warrant, did you find incriminating evidence
Yes, I did.
for the drug search warrant?
That's correct.
Is it your understanding as a longtime professional police officer that you are allowed to make a warrantless arrest?
Yes.
Would it be something that an officer would want to do if he or she's already legally inside a home and has already collected evidence on one crime? When booking in this person for the search warrant evidence, would you not want to also book them in for other crimes if PC was present?
Correct.
Have you done that before in many other cases?
Yes.
Were you ever told by anybody on the prosecutor's staff with respect to what you did, making a warrantless arrest while you were lawfully inside serving a search warrant in another case, that it was improper?
No.
Has the judge ever told you in this case that this was improper?
No.
No questions further.
Nothing else?
Is this yours, Mr. Saunders?
Oh, yeah.
I will, of course, be recalling this witness in my case presentation.
I have no further evidence.
Right now?
Would you like for me to present my case in chief at this time?
Yes.
You would call Michael Strait to the stand, please.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you?
I do.
For the record, would you please state your full name?
My full name is Michael Scott Strait, Jr.
And what is your current position with the Brookville Police Department?
I'm currently the interim chief of the Brookville Police Department.
And how long have you had that position?
I've been acting in that capacity since Chief Terry Mitchell was placed on administrative leave.
And prior to that, how long did you serve on the Brookville Police Department?
I was hired in February of 2015.
Any prior law enforcement experience before that?
I had worked for the Franklin County Sheriff's Department as a sheriff's deputy prior to my employment at the Brookville Police Department.
Have you had a chance to work on numerous cases and matters involving my client?
I have.
And can you just summarize the nature of those contacts?
I've worked with him at the Sheriff's Department as a sheriff's deputy. We were both sheriff's deputies, and we had been involved in several cases together, investigations, and then also at the Brookville Police Department.
Based upon your years of working with my client, do you have an opinion with respect to his professionalism as a police officer?
In my direct experience, I believe him to be a professional police officer.
Have you ever known in any of your dealings with Officer Geiser for him to lie?
Not in my personal experience, no.
Have you ever had any problems from a co-worker or supervisory standpoint with Officer Geiser?
I believe I've had one supervisory discussion with Lieutenant Geiser that would have been behavior that I felt could have been considered negative behavior.
Okay, what was that?
He had flicked a cigarette butt on the ground rather than disposing of it properly, and he did so in front of the officer that was in charge of keeping that area clean. And he was told that he would, from that point, be assisting in keeping that area clean.
And which officer was that was in charge of keeping it clean?
It would have been the night shift, and Officer Forsee in particular had continued to do it.
Okay. That's the only problem you've ever had with Officer Geiser as far as you can recall?
As far as I can recall.
Do you think he's a good detective?
I think he's an experienced officer that has pretty decent detective skills or investigation skills.
Okay. Now, there's a claim here by Officer Forsee. It's one of the 3 counts lodged against my client that he was forced to put misleading statements in his supplemental case report in a rape investigation. Are you familiar with that claim?
I am familiar with the charge.
And what would your response be to the claim by Officer Forsee in terms of that charge?
I have to check that question. The testimony so far from both the witnesses has been that Officer Strait was not there at the time. Therefore, any answer he gives would be speculative in nature and inadmissible in any way.
Trying to build a foundation that leads to the fact that this witness has actually talked to Officer Forsee about this claim.
Lay the foundation in, but that's not a foundation. That's a foundationless question at this point.
That's what I was going to ask. Have you had a chance to talk to Officer Forsee about his claim against Officer Geiser?
I've had 2 interactions with Officer Forsee that would relate to that claim.
And can you describe those for the record, please?
My initial interaction would have been prior to Lieutenant Geiser and Chief Mitchell being placed on administrative leave, and shortly after Lieutenant Geiser's testimony during the suppression hearing that's in question, I had received information that Officer Forsee had not wrote the supplement that was a part of the Tolheimer investigation, the case report. And I had contacted him while at the Brookville Police Department. I contacted him via phone, and I had relayed that to him and asked him basically why this was going around. It seemed concerning. And he had stated that he did not remember writing it and that he didn't remember anything about that day regarding that initially, but then he had recalled that he did write it because there was a double S mistake on his that was a typo that he commonly makes. And he knew at that point that he did write it, but that he couldn't remember anything about the instance in which he wrote it. He was tired.
So on the first occasion, when you asked him about the supplemental case report and the content of that supplemental case report, Officer Forsee did not even remember authoring such a report.
That's correct.
And then on the second occasion, where you had a discussion with him, he admitted that he must have made the report. Is that correct?
That was all in the first occasion.
Okay.
Everything that I just explained happened on the first instance.
And then on the second occasion, what was his story at that time?
The second occasion was after the charging information was released, after what you had as far as the 1, 2, 3 counts had been out. I had a conversation with Forsee at the Brookville Police Department and said these some serious charges here. And he had said, the third charge doesn't make any sense. He didn't order me to write the report. What he did was he had helped me write the report, and afterwards I had made an objection that I believed that it sounded in a way that wasn't true, or sounded in a way that I wanted Tolheimer arrested when I didn't. I made that objection to Lieutenant Geiser, and after making that objection, Lieutenant Geiser said, I don't really think it sounds like that. Beyond that point, he had finished the report and had the report turned in.
Now, if Officer Forsee would testify that the workplace environment within the Brookville Police Department would not have allowed him to question an order being given to him by Officer Geiser, would that be a true statement?
I don't believe that would be a true statement now.
How would you categorize the environment for a lower-ranking officer to go up through the chain of command if he or she would want to question a direct order being given by a supervisor?
I think there's a very open door policy in regards to a lower-level officer contacting a supervisor for anything.
So if an officer would claim that they could not question, in this case, Lieutenant Geiser's orders, that would be a falsehood.
I would say that's a falsehood, and Lieutenant Geiser has been essentially given an extra duty as far as cleaning when something seemed disrespectful towards Officer Forsee. So he could easily come to us and provide us with that information, and we would have dealt with it. And I believe that's the environment we fostered.
Would it be fair to say that there's an open door policy, there has been an open door policy by the Brookville Police Department for employees being able to visit the chief and the assistant chief for problems?
Absolutely.
Is it your understanding when an officer authors a case report or a supplemental case report that it is their responsibility to make sure that the report fully and accurately reflects their opinion and what they believe is the truth?
That's the way it should work, yes.
In fact, isn't it in terms of a case report or supplemental case report done under penalty of perjury?
There is a section on ours that say that it is under the penalty of perjury.
Officers within your department are properly trained and certified as adult police officers, correct?
Yes, they are.
And you expect them to take personal responsibility for the content of any authored document?
Absolutely would.
Were you present when my client applied for a search warrant for the recovery of drug evidence at the Tallheimer residence?
I was present when not when he had applied for it, but I was present when what the affidavit had contained had taken place.
At the time that the search warrant was served, did you observe other individuals present in the home?
When it was served, I was not present.
Are you aware of a person by the name of Lydia Ward?
I am.
Did you ever observe Lydia Ward involved in any of the matters that are brought up here, the 3 counts that you read?
I did not, as far as the date that affidavit's information would have been gathered, I did not see Lydia Ward. I have heard after the fact, through media posts, that Lydia Ward may have been present.
Did you ever receive or hear of messages from a person by the name of Brookville?
I would object. There's absolutely no relevance to this proceeding of attorney information with regard to that nonsense.
You indicated when you opposed my motion to dismiss that I could bring up this information through my own witnesses, and now you're objecting to that.
I said you could make a prop. There's a difference.
So you're going to object to any information that I have with respect to possible conflicts of interest by any of the public safety board members?
Not going to let you go on a fishing expedition, and that's what this is. Those messages, if they are real and if they're what they even are alleged to be, they weren't sent to the respondent. I'm sure she has no idea if the respondent was even involved in that.
Did my client report to you up through the chain of command his witnessing of text messages involving the council member I just mentioned?
Through the chain of command, he had made statements to me reference Snapchats.
Okay. And what was said to you by my client about Brookville?
I was in contact with him on the day of the 30th, January 30th, earlier this year, and he had made a complaint to me and stated he wanted to take him to the chief that Brooke Leffingwell had sent a snap that he observed to Sam Williams requesting him to arrest someone for a political nature, and that she had also made several statements that he found concerning about the Tallheimer investigation, where she was upset or angry with the way that the investigation had played out as far as an arrest of Tallheimer went. This is what he explained to me in a complaint on the 30th, 2022, January 30th.
Do you recall having a conversation with Brooke Leffingwell, which indicated that Brooke Leffingwell wanted somebody's head to roll as a result of a concern regarding this entire matter?
I had a conversation with her at a point in time after Lieutenant Geiser's testimony in regards to the suppression hearing, where she had stated she was present at the suppression hearing and someone needed to pay for what had happened to Trevor Palmer.
Do you recall receiving a phone call from Brooke Leffingwell to arrest a person by the name of Earl Moore?
I have not received a phone call with that statement. I have received a Snapchat
And what was the content of that?
that I needed to find a reason to arrest Earl Moore because he shouldn't be on the board.
Nothing further.
All right, let's talk about snaps for a minute. So you say you've gotten these, right?
That I've gotten snaps?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Did you refer them to the chief?
I had immediately, at the point in time that was stated to me, given that information to the chief of police.
Okay. To your knowledge, did you generate a report alleging that a criminal activity had occurred?
As far as criminal, I didn't research this, but I provided the information to the chief. I made a complaint to the chief.
Did you follow up in any way after you made the complaint to see if he was gonna try to have charges filed?
I was told that he would handle that and to not act on any illegitimate arrest order.
Okay. Did any of that get referred to the prosecutor, to your knowledge?
Not that I'm aware of.
If a crime had occurred, would it be reasonable to think that the chief would have referred the matter to the prosecutor?
I couldn't tell you exactly how he handled it. I don't believe it was referred to the prosecutor, but I don't know the
Okay.
exactities with which he handled the information.
Well, let's put it this way. If he believed the crime had occurred, wouldn't he have been bound by his duty to refer to the prosecutor?
If he believed the crime had occurred,
Okay. Were you ever contacted by the prosecutor in an investigation sense for any of those snaps?
I was not.
Okay. Do you believe a crime occurred with those snaps?
I've not researched it. It was concerning to me. It was provided to my chief through the chain of command. I did not go through an investigation on a town board member acting as a employee of the town of Brookville. It was provided to my supervisor.
So let's talk about things that we may be in the past. So if you pull somebody over for DUI or you catch somebody selling drugs, do you look at them and say, wow, you're 40 years old and you've lived a fine, exemplary, upstanding life to this point. I'm just going to let you have a pass on this one. You ever say that?
That would be with making the assumption that I believe that what had occurred was illegal. I wasn't sure if it was illegal.
No, that's not what I'm asking. I'm just asking about a hypothetical situation. I'm not talking about snaps. We're done with snaps.
Okay.
I'm talking about in general, you pull somebody over, driving intoxicated or dealing drugs. You want to give them a pass because they've lived a 40-year good life?
In the hypothetical you provided, that would not happen.
Okay. So even though Lieutenant Geiser may have been a good officer his whole career up to this point, when he started misrepresenting things, exerting undue command influence, those are bad things, aren't they? Provided, let's say this, if he did those things, those are bad things, right?
If he did those things, those would be bad things, yes.
Okay. And he should not get a pass if he did those things, should he?
If he did those things, could you restate specifically what those things are?
Basically,
I don't know, too.
lying to the court, making misrepresentations, making statements that are diametrically opposed here, exerting undue command influence over Forsee to create a false impression on a document. Would that be something that he should not get a pass for if the board believes he did those things?
Those would be severe issues that would merit disciplinary action.
Okay. Now, let's talk about why, after the disciplinary notice went out, you decided to talk to Officer Forsee about that. Why did you have a conversation with him about that?
This was public, and we had had a mutual conversation in regards to it. These were severe charges. Wow, this is crazy. Simple stuff.
Did you think it was appropriate at that point to do that?
If it's public knowledge,
But don't you have command influence over him?
to say that this is some severe stuff and to say it didn't happen that way to me, I don't know where I'm exerting command influence.
Okay. He wouldn't possibly just tell you what you want to hear, right?
I don't know if he would or not. It's a question for Officer Forsee.
None of those statements he made to you about generating that report were made under oath, were they?
They were not.
They were not made as part of an official police investigation, correct?
They were not.
Okay. But the statements he would have made here were under oath. Is that correct?
I wasn't in the room, but I would assume they would have been under oath.
Okay. And if he admitted that he was forced to falsify a record, that would be a statement against his penal interest, wouldn't you think?
I would say it would be.
Okay. When Forsee said he had problems or reservations about the language in that paragraph of the report, what did he say what specifically those reservations or problems were, or did he just say that and just kind of in passing?
He said he believed it sounded as if he wanted Tallheimer arrested,
And he said he did not.
which he felt he did not want it portrayed that way. That's not what he wanted. Yes.
Okay. So did he tell you that he did not ask Lieutenant Geiser to arrest Trevin?
He didn't specifically make that statement. He said he felt like what Geiser had helped him write appeared to seem as if he wanted Tallheimer arrested, which he did not.
Okay. So if he didn't want somebody arrested, he wouldn't have asked him to do it, right?
That's an assumption that I could make.
Reasonable assumption, wouldn't you say?
Reasonable assumption.
Sure. Now, he testified earlier, and actually you and I had a conversation about that Officer Forsee was on an extended term of probation at the department. Do you remember that?
I do.
And he was supposed to be on probation until like May or something of 2023, right?
I did not read directly. I've gone off what you said. I know there was a paper in there with probation. If you provided it, I can confirm that for you.
But it was supposed to still be ongoing, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, you're the assistant chief. What's your understanding of people being on employment probation?
I guess there's a term for probation as far as when you come in, you would be on probationary status for, I believe ours is 6 months, and there's pay scales that come with it. And while you're on probation, you can be terminated for certain things that would not lead to a process as far as the disciplinary hearings would go.
So basically, you serve at the pleasure of your superiors. Would that be a safe statement of what a probationary status in the Brookville Police Department would be?
Say it's a safe statement.
Safe statement? Okay. Did you have any conversations with Lieutenant Geiser either the morning of the arrest, at some point during the day of the arrest, or the day after, when you asked him about that, the arrest of the rape suspect?
The 30th, are you referring to?
30th, 31st, do you recall having any conversations with him about finding drugs or anything along those lines?
It's possible. I don't specifically recall, but it's possible.
Do you recall where he stated to you, "See, I told you I smelled marijuana"?
Yes.
And he said it like that, "See, I told you I smelled marijuana"?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I have nothing further.
No further questions. May this officer be released from any further duty to testify?
Yes.
We would call Sam Williams to the stand, please.